This is Nicky G, and welcome to Better Commander. Meria, Scholar of Antiquity, $30 budget deck. Let's go. Oh man, remember the big to-do about this commander when this cute little elf artificer was spoiled? Every zero-cost artifact turned into a mox. It's all fast mana, it's all over, life is horrible. I scooped up before my opponent even built their deck. I can't bear the horror of this thing. Which got me thinking, how low can we go on this? Can we build Meria for $70? Sure. Can we build it for $50? You bet. But for today, and for a limited time only, Meria can get suited up for only $30. Now I'm going to read the card, settle down, but first reach up and hit the bell. Hear that? It's the sound of being a subscriber. Sounds nice. Let the warm feeling of love and affection that I put into every syllable fill you as you smile. Shake your head and hit the like button. Anyways, Meria, Scholar of Antiquity, 1 red and a green for a legendary creature, Elf Artificer. It's a 3/3. Tap an untapped non-token artifact you control, add green. Tap 2 untapped non-token artifacts you control, exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. This is a uniquely sweet way to ramp and gruel. I love this thing. The art is pretty rad as well. She found somebody's homemade vape in the woods. Now you're over there asking yourself, how does Meria fit into the 40k universe? No. You see, Meria is from a different universe altogether called Magic the Gathering. It has planes, and this one is Dominaria. It's not Fortnite, it's not SpongeBob, and it's not Transformers. Okay, well, zero-cost artifacts have some utility, the Memnites of this world, Tormod's Crypt, etc. But these are relatively mild effects. There are a ton of ways to go, but how about we do equipments? You see, you can tap equipments all day. Nobody can stop you. And there are a million cheap equipments that we can cast and immediately tap to pay their equip costs or play some other green thing. Notables in the 0 mana value slot, Bonesaw. They used these to amputate limbs in the Revolutionary War. In the 1 mana value slot, there's Basilisk Collar, great abilities, classic card, and now we can put it in budget decks. Flayer Husk. This is a great card because I love early germs. These critters can wear our equipment until we get our fashion models online later. Golem Skin Gauntlets makes all our equipment into pump. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each equipment attached to it. Fantastic. Zephyr Boots, 1 for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature has flying. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, then discard a card has equipped too. This thing helps us cycle through our deck. And Trusty Machete, this thing is kind of what this deck is all about. Mediocre equipment that our commander makes marginally better. And in the 2 mana value slot, Imperial Plate can be a huge pump. I love this art. This guy is so proud of himself. Look at him. He put so many blades on his arm. His hair is all spiffed out. The Righteous. I don't know why some of the scans off of Scryfall are so low resolution, but this is 2 mana value artifact equipment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a charge counter on Gavel of the Righteous. So this happens whether or not it's equipped to something, but the equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each counter on Gavel of the Righteous. As long as Gavel of the Righteous has 4 or more counters on it, equipped creature also has double strike, so this thing's pretty dope if you can get it down early. It has equip, pay 3, or remove a counter from Gavel of the Righteous. I'm a big fan of Gold Vein Pick. This thing's out there making treasure. You can swing it around, bash people's heads, and just golden treasure flies everywhere. That's how mining works, dude. And you got your Volshock Morningstar. This is a cool, efficient pump equipment. Plus it's got neat little art. Haunted Cloak and Chariot of Victory have been lifesavers in budget equipment decks. Great keywords and haste. What's up with the Haunted Cloak though? It's got the spirit of a dead deer in there, I guess. I think if someone offered me the choice of a pretty sweet chariot or a dead deer ghost cloak, I'm getting in that cloak every time, buddy. Nettlecyst, 3 for an artifact equipment living weapon. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. So that doesn't have to be equipment, they don't have to be equipped to anything, just you have to control them. Has equipped too. This effect makes whatever fashion model we're sending into battle undeniable. I have no idea what this is supposed to be either, or why that makes the creature bigger, or what the heck is going on. This card is underrated, underplayed, and a house in artifact decks. Fire Shrieker, also awesome in budget decks, granting the equipped creature double strike. So we don't have too much at 4 mana value, but we got the Brass Knucks. This copies itself and can pay its own equip cost, at least on the non-token version. I'll mention the Tanuki Transplanter here, 3 and a green for an artifact creature equipment dog. When Tanuki Transplanter or equipped creature attacks, add an amount of green mana equal to its power. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. It has reconfigure for 3. I like this guy for a couple of reasons. First of all, he's just kind of a cool little Tanuki dude. He can be an equipment or he can carry an equipment. I have a couple creatures like this in the deck, including Lizard Blades, but this one is special because it ramps us and it looks cool, which is good enough for me. Now we can send Meria into battle if we need to, but she's our commander. She's pretty integral to our game plan. So she's going to hang back, stay safe. She's directing the fashion show from behind the curtain. So who wears Dominaria's latest fashions? Our first fashion model on the runway is Goblin Gavalier. 1 red mana for a creature, Goblin Warrior. It's a 1/1 with trample. Goblin Gavalier gets +2/+0 for each equipment attached to it. When everything looks like a nail, you really need to get yourself a hammer. This guy goes good with our gavel from before. He's got tramp stamps, puts this guy over the top early game or late game. This can take a chunk of damage out of an unsuspecting opponent. But the goblin, he's a little skinny. How about Champion of the Flame? 1 and a red for a creature, human warrior. It's a 1/1 with trample. Gets +2/+2 for each aura and equipment attached to it. Grand Warlord Rada's challengers are always defeated, but she rewards the most passionate with the Flame of Keld. After that, they burn for her. Ooh la la. This guy also has trample but didn't skip leg day. He gets a bigger back end so he can hoist those flaming weapons. How about Etch Champion? 3 generic mana for an artifact creature soldier. It's a 2/2. Has Metalcraft, protection from all colors as long as you control 3 or more artifacts, and that's going to make it really hard to block. This thing's going to get Metalcraft quick. I always like this thing, and this seems like a great deck for it. I'm partial to the older art where it isn't all golden though. Gadrak the Crown Scourge, 2 and a red for a legendary creature, Dragon. It's a 5/4 with flying. Can't attack unless you control 4 more artifacts. At the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn. So this is a big beefy dragon for 3 mana. Hopefully with 42 artifacts in the deck, we'll control more than 4 at any given point. I'm not too worried about a second ability, but it's going to come in handy as stuff starts dying. Kazul Toll Collector is an interesting beater in a budget deck. Cheating equip cost is really good, and if we have a haste enable on the board, this thing can be a surprise big beater. Prophetic Flame Speaker, 1 red for a creature, human shaman. It's a 1/3 with double strike and trample. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, exile the top of a card of your library. You may play it this turn. Fire to destroy, fire to create, fire to make pancakes and make a mess out of our opponents. This guy harmonizes well with Meria's second ability, which we'll get into a little later. Chishiro, the Shattered Blade. Sorry if I said that wrong. He has multiple extra hands. He makes tokens and he beefs up our equipped creatures. Traxos, Scourge of Krug. Feel sorry for Krug. It's 4 generic mana for a legendary artifact creature construct. It's a 7/7 with trample. Traxos, Scourge of Krug enters the battlefield tap and doesn't untap during your untap step. Whenever you play a historic spell, untap Traxos. We can probably untap this thing multiple times a turn, but we probably only need 1 to slap our opponents with a tramply battering ram. Hey, this is a budget deck. Nobody's going to fault us if we use a little infect, right? It's okay if we just sprinkle a little in. Phyrexian Hydra, 3 green for a creature. Phyrexian Hydra, it's a 7/7. It's Phyrexian Hydra and it's a Phyrexian Hydra. It has infect. If damage would be dealt to Phyrexian Hydra, prevent that damage. Put a -1/-1 counter for each 1 damage prevented this way. This is a fantastic finisher. We can deal with an opponent out of nowhere. Infect is particularly nasty in this deck where the name of the game is Pump, Pump, Pump. Spinebiter also has this added evasion at the cost of a little lower power, but can also just come down and take somebody out once we assemble a critical mass of equipment. And finally, Hellkite Igniter can finish the fight. It gets more powerful the more artifacts you have because it's a dragon, alright? That makes about as much sense as Ryu from Street Fighter equipping a demon sword from the Eye of Terror. Meria's second ability synergizes well with a few cards in this deck. Tap 2 untapped non-token artifacts you control, exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. This includes lands, because you play lands, brother. You don't cast lands, you maroon. We got Faldorn, Dreadwolf Herald. 1 red and a green for a legendary creature, human druid. It's a 3/3. Whenever you cast a spell from exile or a land enters the battlefield under your control from exile, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. Has 1 and tap, discard a card, exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. Cities are a blight on the beauty of nature, she says, so here comes some wolves, buddy. Now Feshni is 5 and a red for a creature, beast demon. It's a 4/6 with flying. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. If it's a permanent spell, the copy gains haste, and at the beginning of the end step, sacrifice this permanent. This can wear equipment and just make copies of stuff. Great card in this deck. Anyways, Goldfish this deck plays really smoothly. Usually by turn 6 you have some really huge creatures bashing in with their bone saws, their cleavers, their infect, their armor, and whatever else. It's $30, can't beat that. This costs less than a Secret Lair, and almost $1,000 less than the latest Magic the Gathering debacle. These are cards you can actually play with too. Slapping around your buddy's $10,000 deck with a budget deck is the greatest feeling on earth, but I've never ridden a giraffe, so that might be better. This is Nicky G from Better Commander, signing off.